Well, if you missed Tempest from a couple hours ago, don't worry because we have them all. Up next, we have Blaster Master Zero by TempestMask1000. Tempest, take it away.
It started with Gungrave for a first time showcase at an event that I did. We had Curse Crackers not too long ago, followed by the wonderful Organ Mike's Ultima 4 run, and now here we are with Blaster Master Zero. This is a personal favorite retro revival game of mine in terms of retro revivals, period. And let me tell you, if you have not seen this game before, I hope that I can at least convince you to give it a shot. This is Blaster Master Zero, a collaboration effort between the likes of Inti Creates and Sunsoft, those being the developers of the original Blaster Master for NES. And this is the first of a trilogy series, which there's a Blaster Master Zero trilogy, for those that don't know. A fantastic series of games that essentially pick up where the original Japanese Famicom version leaves off. And today I'm going to be doing any percent, which means I'm going to be playing as the main protagonist, Jason Frudnick himself. Joining me on commentary is also a runner of this game, and a really dang cool person, if I do say so myself, the wonderful Scavenger. How are you doing?
Not bad. You are too kind.
Oh, what can I say, man? It's always a pleasure to have you along for the ride. What can I say? But yeah, what do you say we get down to some mutant blasting action, eh?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Alright, so, timer is going to start a bit differently compared to other games that I've done. So in this case, we have a bit of an intro cutscene where we see the Sophia 3 Metal Attacker tank blasting off. In that case, Sophia 3 blasting off and then followed by me skipping the first text box and gaining control of the tank is when time will begin. So with that in mind, let's get down to it. Once I get the right button. Actually, let me just quickly check my buttons just to make sure I got the right idea here. I'll probably want to set this to that, because that's usually my preferred way of being able to mash. Okay, yeah, that's a bit more like it. Cool. Just making sure. It's something I can change on the fly in the game itself, don't worry, but I just figured get it out of the way now. So, without further ado, I'll select single player. This is the only game of the trilogy that supports multiplayer. A little unfortunate, but hey, I can understand why.
Yeah,
Alright, here we go.
The multiplayer wasn't fleshed out too well in this.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, and go. Alright, so, welcome aboard. If you're familiar with the original Blaster Master game, then you are probably familiar with all things Area 1, because this is one of the areas that practically is copy and paste from that game, minus a few extra sort of spiffs that, of course, BMZ itself would want to add. So, unlike the original Blaster Master game, where the main objective would be to find the main area boss and then proceed, there are a bunch of other dungeons featuring specific rewards themselves, aside from usually one particular dungeon each area. However, in any percent, we are not going to need those. So, basically, the objective indeed boils down to what you would expect from OG Blaster Master, in that all I need to do is find each of the main area dungeons, defeat their bosses, and then proceed onward. And so, right now, I just got out of Sophia. Jason here is capable of doing some action within the side-scrolling world itself. For those that are unfamiliar with Blaster... Oh, God. There we go. Blaster Master... The gameplay was a fusion of these top-down dungeons as well as these side-scrolling areas with the tank. I'm going to quickly demonstrate a little something I can do if I feel dangerously low on health, and that's retry here. There are two menus in this game, initiated either by the start or select buttons, and by going to the select menu, I can hit that little retry feature right there, which it'll take me right back to the nearest checkpoint I did. And this can also include entering and exiting a dungeon as well as an area. And basically, it's pretty helpful and will also come in handy for a few time skips, or time saves rather, that I'll be doing as part of this run. Other than that, you can see that I have a health bar, I have a gun meter, which I can fill up as I go about with collecting these different gun powers, but you'll notice that I'm losing it as I'm taking damage, and that's actually not too handy, so I'm going to take a bit of a risk here, but I'm going to try and keep this at level 1. Now, I also have sub-weapons in the form of these grenades, and these are the only sub-weapons you're going to see. Sophia 3 also has a... Ooh, I got nicked there. That's a little unfortunate. No problem, though. I don't mind a little bit of time loss in Area 1. It's not the worst thing. But yeah, as I was going to say, Sophia 3 also can have some sub-weapons to her arsenal as well, but you're only going to see these spread missiles, these 3-way spread missiles. So I'm going to have to make use of each of those resources to the best of my ability. Now, the nice thing about Jason, unlike the original game, is that he can strafe while holding the right shoulder button, at least by default anyway. And it's especially nice because it allows me to be extra careful with moving out of the way of enemies and trying to do my best to avoid bullets while also putting on the firepower pressure. But yeah, at the moment, I am currently making my way to Mother Brain. So, Scav, if there's anything you'd like to add, go ahead.
Yeah, the strafing he was just mentioning is actually quite improved in this. The original, you actually could strafe, but it required holding down your grenade input, so you couldn't really mash grenades while also strafing. And that's your primary source of damage in the original, so it kind of just makes everything a little bit more difficult. This, having a dedicated strafe button, means you have full access to everything you have, grenades, guns, whatever, while still strafing. Unfortunately, in this, grenades are also a limited resource. Then the original one, you can just spam them to your heart's content. This, you have a finite count, and once you run out, you need to get more.
That was a pretty good Mother Brain fight, all things considered. A little unfortunate with that death, but yeah. That was Mother Brain. By the way, we basically were wrong warped into a Metroid for a brief second, but it's all good. We are out of here. And I've collected the first of 2 gun upgrades to the main weapon. The Hyper Shot is not only going to be needed in order to destroy this mouth mutant-looking enemy, but also it generally raises the attack power of Sophia 3's weaponry as well, which is especially helpful for being able to go through the side sections pretty quick. And the best part is, there will be 1 more to collect as well. Now, before we talk about anything else, I will mention right now that Jason's Jason's own campaign is a little bit unique from other playable characters in that his features story dialogue. So the interesting thing about this is that for anyone that wants to pick up this as a run, you will be encouraged to try and go through this casually first. And the reason for that is because the game will not let you press start to skip dialogue unless you've already experienced it once. Now, this, of course, also counts for any time that you die, so assuming that you see the dialogue die in your casual playthrough, and then you go back to the fight, you can skip it. Why this is the case, I imagine it was just because Inti Creates wanted to find a way for people to experience the story without necessarily missing a beat. Understandable. That's also kind of definitely slightly unorthodox, but hey, I'm all for it, considering I'm actually a personal fan of this story, like, quite a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting how they mashed elements of the NES original plus the Famicom version and then added their own spin to it as well.
Yes.
They also added elements from the novel as well. They just went all
yeah.
over the lore of the series.
Worlds of Power, for those curious, it's a series of novelizations of popular NES games of the time, including, I do believe, Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden and Blaster Master were probably the 2 most well done of the whole series, in my opinion.
I hope to one day see this for myself, because I've always been curious, especially considering that we're going to meet a character that was actually introduced through the Worlds of Power novel, and she is basically integrated into the story much like how she actually had a classic counterpart, but it was one that was not necessarily, like, given a whole lot of appearance in. In fact, the only way you would actually get to know of her is if you happen to have the PlayStation 1 game Blaster Master Blasting Again, which actually focuses the protagonists are her and the original Jason's kids. So, slight spoiler warning, I guess, but I mean, it's Father's Day. I think I can get away with this.
Plus, Blasting Again's like a 20-year-old game. They had their chance to play it unspoiled.
Well, I mean, hopefully they don't try to make the connection to here, though. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. Seriously though, these are some cool games, and if you, I highly implore you to check out the story. Now, I will say that in terms of game platforms, Blaster Master Zero did have the most. The reason for this is because this was originally a Switch title, but also had a 3DS version. Now, unfortunately, due to the 3DS eShop going down, there is no practical way of obtaining that version any longer. Because sadly, Inti Creates never created a physical version, unlike how Gunvolt's Striker Pack originally existed for the 3DS. So, unless you have, let's say, other means, that version is probably going to be the hardest to get. But luckily, outside the Switch version, there's also the Xbox version, which I'm playing for today's run, as well as the Steam version and PlayStation 4. Now, the interesting thing about Xbox and PlayStation 4, at least to my knowledge anyway, with the Metafight Chronicle Trilogy Metafight Chronicle release, is that I'm actually going to do a little trick which will involve reloading my save file. Now, on the Switch and PC version, the recommended way of doing this would be a little thing that's a nod to the soft reset code, which is something Inti Creates loves showing, or rather throwing into their games, because for those that don't know, they were originally the developers for Mega Man Zero's titles, and obviously it's like a little throwback to that. Oops, wrong room. Actually, no, I could get away with that. I am low on grenades, why not? Safety first.
Indeed.
But yeah, as I was gonna say, yeah, so with Inti being the devs to Mega Man Zero, they like to throw in the soft reset combination into their games, and how you do so here is you hold the shoulder buttons and then press start and select. That's the room I wanted to go up in. So overall, you would do that in the case of the PC and Switch version because it immediately takes you back to the title screen. In the Xbox and PlayStation 4 versions, however, oddly enough, they made it so that you will still see the splash logos of Inti and Sunsoft, which technically makes that method slower. So in my case, I am going to go to the select menu, and then I'm going to just hit exit game, which I wouldn't necessarily say it wastes too much time as sort of a time difference. I would only consider the real difference to be, like, absolutely minute.
Yeah, maybe a second or two at most.
Yeah, or even a few frames, I would say. I'm not an expert in counting that way, but you know. Anyhow, we are coming up to a boss that is called the Fabulous Crabulous. And I want to give a quick shout out to one fateful Games Done Quick where Scav here, during a race, accidentally skipped the entire thing. I love that moment so much. It will never leave my mind. It's always rent-free.
I just want to know what the heck happened there, because nobody knows still. I don't know. We've been trying to figure it out for probably like 5 years now.
It would be really cool if Scav Skip eventually becomes real. I would love to see it happen. Like, I could totally see myself looking into it. But it seems that the theory is it must have had something to do with the way the cartridge was set up. Because even with TAS recreations, it just doesn't seem... they just haven't been able to recreate it. So, hey, yeah. Maybe one of these days, but, like, man, what a moment that was.
I honestly think it was a Japanese cart running through a converter into a NES with a kind of dodgy cart connector, so there could have been some fluke between the cart and converter and console. Could have been something as weird as just a random solar flare.
That could have. That would have actually... yeah, wow. How about that? So, right now we have rescued a new companion to the crew. So, the story of the game is very similar to the original US Blaster Master. A little info on that, of course. So, the original title of the Japanese version was Cho Wakase Senki Metafight. And in that game, there's the planet Sophia, where the Sophia Force is trying to defend the people against these attacking aliens, these alien mutants called the Invem. And so Kane Gardner, the protagonist, hops upon the metal attacker tank created by scientist and inventor Jennifer, who then goes out to take care of the Invem. And unfortunately, that game did not sell well in Japan, so they figured when bringing it over to the US, they would try and do what I like to call a Jalico, where basically they changed up the plot a little bit, and they ended up making it a little different for American audiences to follow, where the plot simply was a guy named Jason Frudnick happens to have his pet frog, Fred, escape his containment and ends up growing bigger due to some radioactive sludge that just so happens to have been in his backyard. And now, all of a sudden, the frog falls down a hole, Jason finds the tank, and now he's going to trying to find his frog. Frog's name is Fred, by the way. So, in that sense, that's actually what this Jason is doing, although they kind of threw in a little bit of a plotline where this is actually sometime into the future where humanity on Earth has survived an ice age and had to migrate underground to survive and thrive. So this Jason who is a proclaimed genius of oh no, I gotta go, hold on a second there. Oh, gosh dang it, that scared me. I gotta explain that trick very soon before something goes wrong. Alright, I'm gonna take this very safely. Give me a moment here. Okay, pick up that health. That big one should be just fine. Okay. I hate scaring myself like that, I really do. So, as I was about to say, Jason believes that this frog-looking creature could be a potential species, a bit of a missing link of sorts to Earth history, and he basically cares about Fred, but he also wants to study him for the potential betterment of Earth and the ecosystems. And meanwhile, in Area 2, we picked up a girl who's suffering from amnesia. Her name's Eve, though, and she's pretty good at the tank, so she's now, she's basically our co-pilot. She's offering support whenever I'm out in the dungeons, and you can actually converse with her at this point in the game, too, which is really nice.
Yeah, they did a really nice job fleshing out the story in this, compared to all of the previous games in the series.
Well, that's not quite gonna do it for me. Okay, gotta push it up. As you can see, the yellow conveyor belts will slowly fall down as compared to the green conveyor belts, which will quickly fall down if you don't lock them into place where they're intended to go. The interesting thing about the yellow conveyor belts is that you can push them back with your missiles and shots. It's not the fastest way of doing it, but it certainly is a way to sort of save time without having to constantly use the elevator, conveyor belt. I'm picking up a life up, by the way, over there. These are collectibles within each of the areas, one per area. Whoa, no, I don't want to hit that. And the reason I did that is because it's basically a full heal when you get it, while also adding in a single point of health to Jason and the tank. So, coming up is going to be a pretty RNG heavy boss. See, if you're thinking we need more machines, then no need to fear. Central Gear is here.
The trolliest boss in the entire run, in my opinion.
I would agree. Let's see what he does. Okay, that's not quite it, but hey, it works, sort of. Okay, maybe not so much. I could have gotten a little more damage had I remembered he goes all the way down for that attack. Ah, that's not what I wanted. So, Central Gear's weak point is the eye, as you can probably tell. I would like to position myself in a way where I can directly get in the line of fire and then just rapidly spam bullets. But yeah, that's not a good positioning. The platform will randomly change. That's basically it. But luckily, with this positioning, it's easier to get some more shots in there. So it's not the worst in that regard. Okay, he's going to spawn a few little minion projectiles. By the way, at this point, I now have the ability to hover. Okay, here's a railgun attack. There we go.
Unfortunately, this boss can take anywhere from 1 to 3 cycles, and it's entirely dependent on RNG. Only 1 or 2 of the patterns can be 1 cycled, and all the rest will lead to either a 2 or a 3.
Alright, so now I'm going to perform the first trick that I alluded to, involving exiting and reloading the file. Scav, can you explain what exactly that whole spiel about Area 3 was?
So, essentially, all throughout Area 3, Tempest was skipping every save point along the way, and the reason for that is you don't actually have to go into any dungeons, any overhead areas in the entirety of Area 3, and by doing that, it keeps your last checkpoint at the start of Area 3. So after you pick up the hover and kill the boss, you can go into your menu, hit save in the menu, and then soft reset either through the soft reset or exiting through the menu, depending on your platform. And it'll put you right back at the entrance to Area 3, which is convenient because you have to backtrack all the way through Area 3 to get back to Area 2 anyways. It saves at least a minute and a half, if I had to guess.
Now, I totally realized that I could have done a retry at the Area 2 area, but I just got, my mind sort of skipped a beat, and I'm like, okay, that's going to waste a little more time, so I'm just going to take a chance and play it safe. Yeah, I'll do it at Area 1. This shouldn't be... Well, okay, I don't want to jinx myself. I have a habit of doing that, as it were, evident by my last 2 runs. But yeah, here we go.
Touching a little bit more on the platform differences that Tempest was alluding to. If you look at the game screen, you'll notice that there's little black bars on the left and right of it. That is actually because of the fact that the game was initially designed with the 3DS as the target platform, and that is a 5:3 aspect ratio system. So in 16:9, you get a little bit of slight letterboxing on the sides.
This was also prevalent in console versions of Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 1 as well, so you might be familiar with that sort of aspect ratio if you've played the PC version of that. Fantastic games, though, I will say.
Absolutely.
I am actually trying to pick up Curse of the Moon as a run myself, and I know that I also now have Curse of the Moon 2, which I'm absolutely looking forward to do. I was actually lucky enough to happen to notice that despite having already gotten it on Switch, Curse of the Moon 1 was offered as a free claim for Xbox Games with Gold, which is what happens where every half of a month a new game is offered and swaps out for another one, and assuming that you have a live gold membership and activate the claim, it's yours to keep, but it's also tied to your profile. And you can still technically purchase the game, which I would imagine there are at least a couple of perks as to doing that, which I actually recently had the incentive to give that a go with Curse of the Moon, because Inti Creates actually had what I would think would be their very first Xbox sale not too long ago. So all these games on the Microsoft Store for the Xbox console were discounted at basically the same price you would see whenever there's a major Steam sale, and that was really nice because it also gave me the incentive to finally get Blaster Master Zero 2, which was the only game that I had yet to get. So,
you guys might have noticed the save point that Tempest just hit. It looks like he went out of his way to hit that save point, but that actually is where we need to go at the end of this area. So it's another Area 3 situation where he's going to save warp to save quite a bit of time going back through the area.
Now, Area 4 is a bit of a maze, and this sewage area is just, it can be certainly unfriendly at times, but it's not the worst. The main concern about time loss here is if you get lost, which, I'll be honest, I do a fair bit. I can easily get myself lost at a moment's notice, and what feels like the right way might end up being a bit of a detour. But one thing to absolutely be noted here is you saw that thing I just destroyed right there. It's kind of a sewage block up, and it requires the Sophia gun to destroy. Now, interestingly enough, the other playable characters you can get as DLC packs, they didn't have a bit of a difference within their overall gameplay. In the case of what I also run, which is Gunvolt, his any percent category actually is considered faster in that he has to skip the second level upgrade for Sophia 3 in terms of the gun power. This is good in that it allows him to straight up skip Crabulus and a few other bosses as well, but on the other hand, it makes his Sophia gameplay a little bit weaker throughout the entire run. But to circumvent that, his own pea shooter, his tag gun, is actually capable of destroying stuff, whereas Jason's blaster rifle is not. So minor differences like those can really make these different characters all feel different. And if you're curious as to who's who, we actually got Gunvolt himself, which it's taken after Gunvolt 2. There's Ikoro from the Galgun series, which actually preceded Gunvolt, Shovel Knight, Yacht Club, and Shantae Way Forward. But we'll talk about that another time, maybe if I ever get to show those off. For now, we got Ribarol, or as Scav likes to call Frog the Fred. And let's see what he decides to do today. Okay, that's not too bad. Going for the tongue. I was a little low on SP, but that was a... Yeah, okay, that was pretty good. He behaved this time. I actually showcased the Gunvolt category at this year's spring edition of Game Over Cancer, where unfortunately I did take a unexpected death to him. And the reason for that was because I was a little bit careless about my health. And it was a little bit embarrassing, but I made it through. So now that we've taken care of him, and it also doesn't help either that because Gunvolt's tank power is not as high as what Jason's run demands, of course, it takes a little bit longer to take care of Ribarol as well. Alright, now we're coming up to a bit of a tricky spot right here. Okay, that's good. First try. Oh, no, that would have been bad.
This room is very interesting to me when you talk about the original game, because in the Japanese original... Okay, so in the US version, you had kind of a similar setup to this, where you have to get through all these ladders and platforms over the water, and in the Japanese version, you had none of that. You had a one-tile ladder that you had to make a blind jump to and hope you didn't miss and splat on the ground.
Yeah, see, like with the original game, where Kane in the Japanese version or Jason in the US version, both of them could not withstand a fall of, I believe it was up to 5 blocks of a drop. And it's the same case here. Anything that's like around 4 blocks high will deal fall damage of varying degrees, which, on that note too, it's worth noting Jason takes double the damage of anything that Sophia 3 takes, so I gotta be extra careful in that regard. But other than that, yeah, he can take fall damage, whereas, funnily enough, the DLC characters can't, but obviously that's just Inti and Sunsoft working within the rule set of those characters in their game. I don't blame them one bit, honestly.
Yeah, all of the DLC characters have really fun differences to their gameplay.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to undergo a little something where it's an entire section as Jason, because as you can see right there, Sophia does not tread well in water, and that's actually the reason why I ejected from it in order to get to Mother Brain's lair. So unfortunately, Jason's swimming can be a little bit awkward at times. The idea is that you have to move the directional pad and keep him moving in that direction in order for him to stay afloat. He will fall otherwise to gravity, so basically I have to press up, let go a little, and then, yeah, in order to keep him at a consistent swim height. Otherwise, I have to avoid the fish because my blaster rifle will not destroy those things. And the only thing that it can hurt are the little diver mutants there. And the objective of Area 5 is I need to get the upgrade for swim gear, which will allow Sophia to become a little more mobile in water. But right now, I just got to get through the rest of this, and then I'm going to let the fish pass. I didn't think I was going to make that cycle. You can't go faster as Jason in the water, so you can go faster with Sophia. It has a couple of speeds, but that's for another time. Well, not another time soon,
yeah,
but not now.
The most you can do underwater with Jason is you can like hold the strafe button to swim backwards, and that lets you cut some corners a pixel or two quicker, which saves a frame or two.
I actually had no idea. You just taught me something new.
I discovered that on accident in the practice room at AGDQ 18.
Holy cow. By the way, check out his run. It was a really good Shantae run. It was, seriously, Shantae is one of my personal favorite female protagonists of gaming, and they always do her well, even in her guest appearances.
Yeah, honestly, I had more fun running and playing Shantae in this than I did with any of the other characters, including Jason.
I always like Jason because he's always the OG, and I personally love the idea of, like, his story. And that's why one of these days it actually is one of my goals to not only get my time further down, but also showcase his story at a GDQ, because that's the one thing that hasn't quite happened yet. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, I personally think the entire trilogy is due for a showing. So to be able to showcase Jason at the very least in BMZ1 would really complete that whole effect, at least in my opinion. But other than that, I will say the interesting thing about the DLC... Oh, dang it. Man, those sniping bullets, man. The DLC characters and their tanks, they are indeed recolors of Sophia 3, which might not sound impressive on the surface. Ooh, that was pretty good. I was gonna totally YOLO that, but I wouldn't have minded if I fell into the water. But in Blaster Master 02, which was the final of the trilogy to involve DLC packs... Oh, wait, hang on a second. Salutes in chat for Fish Friend. That is the only time in the game, believe it or not, where actual blood is descriptively shown. It's still pretty intimidating, though, if I do say so. That's just like... That's always a moment that's kind of just stuck with me. But yeah. That right there, by the way, was that ominous shadow. We'll be seeing him in just a bit. Right now, though, I do need to go out of my way to try and rebuild my gun, because unfortunately I took one too many hits. I was pretty low in the first place, but all things considered, transporting myself from Area 2 to Area 5, you probably noticed that there weren't any top-down dungeons that I necessarily needed to do. In one way, that's fine, but on the other hand, I need to rebuild my gun because I need the maximum level in order to properly handle what's coming up. So,
yeah,
let's see what happens.
Besides the Area 3 boss, Central Gear, this is the other major RNG sticking point in the run, is hoping you get enough drops throughout the Area 5 dungeon to not have to farm any gun upgrades.
Ooh, I took an extra hit for that guy. Unfortunate to say, invincibility frames are very low. Essentially, they... Like, how do I describe this? They are only going to give you, like... Oh, wait, I already read... Nah, that got ruined. Oh, well. I'll accept that. I don't really mind much. I was gonna say...
I knew the exact amount of invincibility frames when Jason gets hit. I want to say it's 22 frames.
I would almost say... Yeah, I would basically equate it to 0.5 seconds, that's for sure. So, it's easy to take multiple damage from the same thing, and you really have to get out of the way in order to, like, avoid that. Whoops, I did not mean to go back in there. But as you can tell, for each time I revisit the dungeon, enemies respawn, and so do the items as well. Oh, that's actually lucky. That was actually... Oh, man, if only I got that sooner. The big gun power-ups, in case you didn't notice, those give me 4 levels of gun. And yeah, that would have been a little bit nicer to have sooner, but hey, for a security guy to give that to me in the last drop that I need, I'll take it. Alright, this is hard shell.
Unfortunately, top-level runs of this game almost require good gun RNG to get all 8 bars by the boss without having to do any farming. It sucks. It's a lot of resets.
So yeah, here we have hard shell. Scav likes to call him Zoidberg. Oh, crud, I lost a gun level. I'm going to have to reset that one, because I do not like my chances if I don't. The problem with him is that hard shell's only weak point, as you noticed, is the back of his body. And that's especially a pain, because in having to use the wave gun, which not only has the same properties of penetrating through walls like level 2, but it's also a pretty powerful gun. One of the most busted ones, but as the speedrun would find out, it's... There's one other gun that does a lot of damage, perhaps even more so than Wave right here. But there we go. That wasted a little bit more time than I would have wanted to. But I'm still having fun, and I hope you all are too. Because, like I said, I love this game, and I cannot recommend it enough. Alright, so now that we got the swim gear, I have to make my way back down. Now, of course, because we just exited from a dungeon, sadly there's no way to immediately get us back to Sophia. Otherwise, that would have been really nice, considering that, you know, there was a checkpoint beforehand, but yeah, no, doorways. I mean, I have tried it. I actually have attempted it on a bit of a whim, and... Needless to say, no matter what you do, you still have to make this mandatory swim back to your tank. So, yeah, unfortunate, but it is what it is. But now that we have the ability to swim, we also... So, like I said, Sophia has 2 speeds for underwater. And I'm going to hold the jump button to do that. So, you're going to see it go faster in terms of horizontal movement as compared to when I'm not. This is especially neat because I'm going to do something that might seem a little unorthodox, but you'll notice this current right here, which is obviously pushing against us. And while you're holding the jump button and having Sophia's swim gear go into the faster mode, it will push against it. Obviously, not having to go against the current would be considered faster, but, well, for one, I find it absolutely amusing that these diver mutants are absolutely keen on trying to get to us, that they do not concern themselves and their safety to the spikes. And two, I would say it's a little less cluttered than having to go the upper route. So technically, I would be saving time no matter what. Okay, Area 6 time. And, Scab, why do a lot of people not like this area?
Ice physics.
Yeah.
Ice physics, plus it's just really hard with a lot of mashing. It can really wear your wrist out by the end of it.
Yeah. See, that's the funny thing about some Inti Creates games and their speedruns. Mashing may potentially be required. You don't know for sure all the time, but in a game like this one, I would say definitely. And
even in this game, depending on the character, like Jason requires a lot of mashing, Shantae requires almost none.
oh, that's true, yeah. Because holding the button, yeah, her ponytail attack, you just hold the button and she keeps going, right?
If it does, I'm unaware. I've always just kind of rhythm mashed it, but that might be the
probably
case, yeah.
then. I don't know. I'm just trying to remember it based on him playing the Shantae games myself, but it's fine. I don't mind. What I do mind are these enemies, though, which activate once you initiate the control rooms and turn on the cold temperature. So, unfortunate to say that this is a thing, but alas, this is indeed a thing. You'll notice that there are these areas that look pretty blank, but once I activate the control room, it'll cause these ice blocks to spawn, which then requires me to create the platforming by using Sophia's gun, as well as using the hovering to get up there. So I'm going to make sure that I at least have a full SP gauge before I even start doing that. One of the nice things, though, about running Gunvolt is that he entirely skips that section, and the reason for that is that because Gunvolt is Inti Creates' spiritual successor franchise to the Zero and ZX games, like a Mega Man X character, Gunvolt has wall jumping, or wall kicking, as it's technically called. And because of that, he can do it in Blaster Master Zero as well, which therefore allows him to completely go the way we're supposed to go after we defeat the main boss in Area 6, which is especially nice because it just takes away a lot of the middle ground and just makes it a very straightforward affair. But admittedly at the cost of having to deal with the boss at its potential worst.
And there's only two characters that can take that back route into Area 6, and that's Gunvolt and Shantae. It's such a nice route, though, because it avoids all of this annoying stuff you guys are watching right now.
I kind of forgot that Shantae was the other one.
Yeah, Shantae can wall jump, but only if she's in her monkey form.
That makes a lot of sense, though. I kind of forgot that was a whole feature with the monkey form. Or as I like to call, just simply Funky Monkey. Alright. Moving up and around and about, we are at least one room away from reaching a major story point. That receiver in the upper right corner automatically activates in levels where they're trying to convey the story point of Jason's search for Fred. And in the case of Area 2, the signal actually led us to Eve, but in this case, we are indeed on our way to find Fred, who we will be seeing very shortly. I gotta really work on my damage management, I swear. That's probably the one thing that keeps me from getting a few better times. Oh well. I'm a bit reckless by nature. I think some people can totally understand where I'm coming from there. So yeah, we found Fred. And if you were to check out, by the way, this game, as Inti Creates makes some amazing pixel art and pixel art cutscenes, and this is no exception. I would say it gets better with the later down the line in BMZ, but like, you see this cutscene render of Fred, who's looking a little damaged, and it's actually showing what seems to be some machine parts in his physiology, which is pretty curious. You wonder what that's all about. But then all of a sudden, a little something starts to stir within Area 6, and now we have to take care of it. So we're now on our way to the main boss. And this is where things get interesting, because, yeah, so Jason's story is the one that happens to have the best, probably, like, no, actually, forget it. It is the best way of handling said boss. And that's ironic, considering that he doesn't have a whole lot of skips going for him otherwise. Aside from maybe, unlimited mode best ending. But, yeah, so now I'm going to enter this area. And one of the other reasons why I needed the wave gun in Area 5 is well, that was a bit clumsy. I'll demonstrate it anyway. As you can see right here, the fire gun is actually capable of melting the ice. So that's really really handy. But yeah, there's a big gun power-up right there, so I wasn't in too much danger. I just needed to make sure it felt less awkward. And now coming up is casually the worst boss of the game. And in terms of the speedrun as well, we call him Ancient Freeze, I call him Ancient G's. It's a security system, for whatever reason, I don't know what they were thinking when they made this thing, infected by a mutant. Its weak point is all of the eyes on the wall. All I need to do is this. Alright, and then I just have to keep the fight going. Get used to that sound effect a little bit. Luckily, you don't hear it as much because of Jason's striker gun, which that's indeed what the level 5 gun is called. And wouldn't you know it, it is indeed an adage to GV himself. Nice. There we go. That wasn't too bad. And that'll put me a little bit back on track. Now for a pretty iconic late-game power-up from the classic game, made a lot better here. Scav, explain.
So the wall upgrade will allow the tank to scale walls and ceilings, and in this game it's got a dedicated button that you have to hold to make your tank either go up a wall, or if you're rolling along the edge of a platform, to roll down the face of it. In the NES original, you didn't have a button to activate it, it just automatically activated, and it activating took priority over trying to jump off of a platform. So if you were trying to jump off of the edge of a platform with that upgrade, you just rolled down the face of the platform, usually into a pit of spikes or to your immediate death. They actually had the functionality at one point in the game to trigger the wall usage with the down D-pad arrow in the original NES game, but they must have removed it or something, because another Runker, Uranium Anchor, was able to restore it by changing one byte in the round. Yeah.
What?
Well,
That's
there's also
incredible.
a removed power-up from the NES game as well in Area 8. So, in the original game, you fought two bosses in the final dungeon, and they both are fought in the same room. Originally in the game, there was a spike upgrade that let you pass through spikes unharmed. And the original plan for Area 8, you would fight the first of the two bosses early on in the area in one of the early dungeons to get your spike upgrade, and you would use that to traverse the rest of the way through Area 8 to the final boss's dungeon. When they removed the spike upgrade and moved both bosses to the same dungeon, they didn't change any of the level design or layouts. So you have these impossible almost to make jumps and platforming that originally you were supposed to be able to go through the spikes without any fear, but now the power-up's removed, so it becomes insanely hard platforming that usually leads to a lot of people not being able to finish the game.
My mind is blown, honestly. Whew. On top of that, too, though, it's worth mentioning the original game had a hover meter of its own, so you had to collect these hover power-ups in order to build it up in the first place, and that in itself can be a time waster.
Indeed.
For sure. Luckily, the SP meter is a lot more streamlined as can be, and, well, I think we all appreciate it.
Yeah, the original game, you had power-ups for all of your sub-weapons, and they had finite amounts that got refilled via said power-ups. In this, they combine the hover gauge and the sub-weapon power into essentially 1 meter, and everything just runs off of that 1 meter. On a plus side, it does self-regenerate.
Yes, very much so. You just got to be very mindful of how much you use it, otherwise you're going to be in a bit of an awkward spot. That's why sometimes pulling off quick kills on central gear and other stuff can very well bank on that sort of thing. And it's a shame to say that there's never really a power-up in BMZ, like any of the Trilogy games, where you reduce the amount of SP you're using. The only exception to this being a tank that sadly we will not see in here. See, any percent actually goes and works off of what you need to do in order to get the normal ending of the game. There is a true ending to this game, though, that has obviously, as the name would imply, what leads to Blaster Master 02. And in that case, the conditions for it are 100% completion for each and every upgrade that you can find, including area maps for 1 to 8. Oddly enough, the Area 9 map, which is what you unlock once you do so, that is, I mean, you don't actually have to collect it, but for the sake of 100%, we kind of do. In terms of that category, anyway, which there's really not that much of a major difference regardless, so yeah. Oh, then, oh wait, well, okay, I say that, but there are a couple of boss raids. That's true. Anyhow, we're just making our way back to Area 3 because the wall drive ability was obviously what was needed, in case you might have noticed a... Whoa, no! I dropped too early. Thank goodness I didn't die, though. If you noticed a sideways conveyor belt hanging on a wall. So, we just gotta make our way there, and then we'll get our way to Area 7. And then at that point, we are nearing the end of the game.
That little alcove that
we're getting...
Tempest just went through, all the DLC characters have an additional ability hidden in that spot.
Wait, all of them? I know Gunvolt's appears there. I know.
Oh wait, actually
Jewel
no, it's not all
appears
of them.
there. That's for
Shantae's is
sure.
in Area 5. You're right. I'm dumb.
Right. Oh no, you're fine. I know for a fact that Squid Baron, which is so that's actually the fun part. So the DLC characters, they still have to pick up the Jason sub-weapons, even though they do not actually use those for access to Area 9. But in terms of them getting an extra ability, it's in the form of a character that appears from their series. So in the case of Shantae, it's Squid Baron. In the case of Gunvolt, it is Jewel. I do not know the other two.
I forget myself.
I would imagine that the possibility for Ikoro is the protagonist character, but then again, they would have to obscure his face. Because I know Tenzo, I believe or whatever his name is from Double Peace, he appears in the latest Inti Creates game, Gal Guardian's Demon Purge.
Game.
But they, of course, to still make him the protagonist, they obscure his eyes. But yeah, no, I gotta tackle that at some point. I played the Steam Next Fest demo. I felt pretty good about it. My only complaint being that while Inti Creates has now started to implement more English dubs to their game, this one in particular did things a little interestingly, kind of like a Hyperdimension Neptunia game where if you know exactly what that's about, the side conversations are not dubbed in English, whereas the Japanese dub would have it that way. In this case, there's a pure and a refined mode. And in case of refined mode, which is the English dub, you're only really hearing the combat sounds. I don't know if there was a bit of a fan request to try and change that. I don't even think they did. Not the worst thing in the world. I just feel like, I honestly kind of wanted to hear what they all sounded like in full anyway. But yeah. And in the case of Shovel Knight, I would imagine his character, whatever you pick up for him, I would imagine either Chester or Shield Knight.
I don't recall the characters. I do recall now, though, that the location for all of them, Shantae is the only exception to the powers being in that little alcove in Area 1. The other three's up there. It's just Shantae's the outlier for some reason.
I think I can understand why, though. I mean, Squid Baron at the beach
makes
makes sense
it really
to
does. Oddly enough, Gunvolt's
Yeah, Shadow.
unique ability is about the only thing that can rival Jason for beating the Area 6 boss. But you would only have it in a 100% run, probably, for the refight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for the refight, but it feels so cathartic, let me tell you. Oh, geez, come on. But yeah, Voltaic Chains is so satisfying to have for Ancient Freeze, for obvious reasons. It is just an instant kill if you use it the moment those eyes appear. Ooh. Okay, no problem. First death, not gonna lie, that's okay. Wait, oh man. Never mind, it sent me all the way back. Oh well, I'll manage. I still have a good feeling this will be underestimate, but yeah, all good.
Yeah, Area 7's pretty brutal. It's already hard enough from a layout and platforming standpoint, but then you add in all the stealth mechanics BMZ introduced, and it's just really difficult, especially when you're trying to go fast.
Any percent particularly has a bit of a way to deal with it. You gotta hope that you can aim it right, because one way to go faster in terms of the spotlights is you have to... There we go. That's a good example right there, because at the best case scenario, you get a 3 worms... The 3 worms spawn. They will always spawn those red worms in groups of 3 for that light. The best way to handle it is to hope that you have it aimed well enough that it'll just tackle all 3 of them. And let's see if I get it here this time. Not quite. So alternatively, the best way to handle this is by... I'm gonna do it. Okay, nope, not quite. Jason is the only character who can do that. With his crouch shot, he can target the things, the caterpillars at level. So there's not really much you can do otherwise, per se.
Shantae can also hair with them.
Oh, that is true. And I imagine Gunvolt is, I mean, at minimum capable of it. That's, man, I really screwed this one up. I gotta retry that one. Leave it to me to throw off my own strats. Okay, so now we're just gonna have to move along. I'm gonna go right up here. Clear those blocks, yeah, and then I'm gonna wait out the spotlight. The detection box does not extend to the sides of the cone. There we go. That was a... I didn't think that was gonna make it. That was good. That was lucky. It's well worth noting that in 100%, you get some really helpful stuff. Like, the whole thing about me taking... Every time Jason takes damage and loses a gun level, there's a power-up that mitigates that. Okay, that was not what I wanted for, but I was a little too overconfident in the cycle there. It's called the Energy Guard, and while it only takes a single hit, it's still a hit that's worth... It's still a thing that's worth taking. Like, it doesn't completely remove the challenge of trying to survive without taking damage, but it certainly makes it a lot more palatable.
Yeah, it doesn't completely make you immune to it, but it has a pretty fast cooldown time, so it gives you some leeway. You can take a hit every maybe like 8 seconds or so and not lose gun upgrades.
Speaking of gun upgrades, I'm going to need the Striker once again for this one, because now we're coming up to what is probably the hardest section of the entire area. So as you can see, I had to place Sophia 3 on an elevator, and I need to activate that. But in order to do that, I need to get to the switch, which I have to go all the way through this top-down dungeon to do so. And these security guards in the red coloring are... Oh, okay, I gotta retry that. They are very aggressive, as you just noticed. So if I get detected by a single one of them, all of them will try to converge to Jason and will make life hellish for you. It is not fun. But luckily, the Striker gun can make having to go through them a little bit helpful. Like, they still take a lot of damage before you destroy them, but... yeah, no, Striker is still very much the go-to here. Okay, so now I'm out of here, and now it's time to face very fan-favorite boss of sorts, one that has made a common reoccurrence through the entire trilogy. Familiar with the cover art on the original Blaster Master Zero? You're familiar with Skeleton Boss here.
Yeah, one thing they did for Blaster Master Zero, the original game had 2 bosses that were just palette swaps of previous bosses. Blaster Master Zero, they got rid of them by essentially replacing the Area 6 palette swap boss with Ancient Freeze and moving this boss from Area 8 to Area 7.
This would actually be the final boss of the original game, and it's interesting, too, because they also changed up the design a little bit, but yeah, this would basically be, oh gosh, I forgot what this thing's original identity was. Unless it was, like, the Plutonium Lord himself, but I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be what Goez was in, heckin' the Japanese version of, the Blaster Master. But yeah, now we've entered the most difficult area of the game. And if I can manage to get a really good time off of this one, I'll consider myself the luckiest man around. Because Area 8 is, ugh, yeah, as you can see right there, a major difficulty spike. So, maybe it's not as bad as the original NES game, but it certainly brings up the challenge and then some. You got all these spikes right there. Yeah, see, there we go. I was not surprised that I was going to die there. Oh well. We'll try that again, though. It was just as hard in the original game, and it's just as hard here, but there are a few things that does make it feel a little more palatable, in my opinion. Not to say that I've entirely been able to go through Area 8 and experience all of it in OGBMZ, but oh dear, if you have the NES app for the Nintendo Switch, you can access a SP version of Blaster Master, which is basically a sort of specialized save file that the game starts you off on, and generally speaking, you're going to have like a lot of late game perks to it. This is going to be a little dicey here. I'm going to try and go for my safety setup. If only I did not ran out of SP points there. Hate to say it, I think we're going to probably go a little overestimate because of that. My apologies there, but honestly, that's just the nature of this game sometimes. It's really not that bad once you get down, it just has a little risk reward to it as well. Alright, I'm going to let myself focus.
Yeah, this game also has a lot of really good safety strats. It's a really approachable run for newer speedrunners and people just picking it up. It's got a lot of really risky, dumb strats for saving minuscule amounts of time as well, but as far as just getting into the game, it's a really approachable speedrun.
Very much. I guess the only reason I'm not making it look that way is because I guess I never really studied up on those strats. I mean, hey, I gotta admit it, but you know. Oh well, I do what I can. It's actually not too bad as it sounds, though, and for what it's worth, too, I do practice off of my Switch version, because, like with Curse of the Moon 1, I do have this on my Switch as well, but I mostly use it as sort of a portable practice machine, because this game gives you a generous 27 save slots, and by putting that to use, it gives you essentially enough to make a save point for every main boss of the game, and or maybe every main trick as well, and you'd still have space to spare. So that's, yeah. I know for a fact, though, that the later games might have dialed it down just a little. So, you know. Understandable, considering Inti didn't really have to put as many save slots as they did here. Like, 27 is certainly quite a bit. But, yeah. Oh, I want that checkpoint. Come on, game. Now, as nice as it would be to actually go straight to the Mutant Lord's lair, the reason I know for a fact this is going to go overestimate is because, unfortunately, we actually do have what would appear to be an optional dungeon, but it's actually got a mandatory progressional item. So we actually will be getting to hear the mini-boss theme, which I always considered a nice tune myself. Ooh, I didn't think I was going to clear that. Man, I am just making myself sweat. I mean, I guess it doesn't help that I'm wearing my denim jacket right now. Alright. Cool. Yeah. So, like, y'all can see that Striker Gun is so OP in that it can target everything on the screen and everything near it as well. The one major downside of this is it requires... They only can handle, like, one shot at a time. So if you miss, you're going to have to wait for that shot to go fully off in order to then fire a new one. And I actually do want to have a full gun for this. So we'll see how it goes. But those tracker enemies, the red-colored ones, compared to their blue counterparts, where the blue ones only follow you either horizontally or vertically, these guys will follow you in all directions. So you have to be a little bit considerate of that, otherwise they will seriously give you a lot of trouble. Alright, now for the sub-boss in question, this is the antibody cell. And I don't really know a good way to describe this one. I could call it like... I want to say it's kind of like Boobing Trap from Mega Man 2, except with something of a devil mechanic to it. I mean, it's not really that, but you know, it's close enough. Okay, that's not cool. There we go. Grenade was able to finish it.
This boss can be very, very annoying.
Alright. Absolutely. I've been waiting to crack open that bottle of ginger ale for the entire run, not gonna lie. I was in need of, so I was way overdue for some hydration. And if there's one thing that the wonderful Organ Mike said during his Ultima 4, their Ultima 4 one technically. Whoa, 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 no bugs allowed. It's stay hydrated. Come on. Dang it! Well, that's what I get. Sorry, Mike. I did not do a good job there. Dadge. But yeah, we are reaching the finale of the game. So, or rather this run. So we are closing up on the ending. And in doing this, I have to reach the Mutant Lord's lair right here. If only I could jump high enough. I guess the jump height, yeah, I don't know. You notice that Sophia 3 has two different jump heights. One for low hanging jumps, the other for high hanging jumps, but there's no in between, oddly enough.
Yeah, there's either...
All right, we are done with
There's
Sophia
either a
3.
quick tap or a full hold. There's no in between. It's not like Mega Man where you can almost set your jump height to a specific pixel if you know how to do it right.
Yeah, tragic. So now we've entered the Mutant Lairs Lord. This is a bit of a maze. The objective is you need to basically choose the right doors in order to avoid gauntlet fights against a few enemies, and this is basically the way to go by it. Not much else to explain here. One final save point, and here's the Mutant Lord himself, originally known as Goez. I do believe this is actually the very Goez that Kane fights in the first game, supposedly brought back to life. So, yeah, it's a bit of an interesting sort of take on the whole thing. But yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd get a few wave beam on him first. Otherwise, I want to spam the striker gun because it's actually going to deal damage a lot faster. I just have to be very close to him. That's the only trade-off. Alright. Final boss time. And time will be when this guy's health bar reaches 0. Scav, what am I looking for?
Honestly, I don't remember for this character which pattern you want.
Let's see what we get anyway. Oh, bats! Yeah,
I think
okay.
Blue's good.
Get ready. And time.
GG.
Thanks. Sadly, that did get a little wrecked with the pace, especially with that Area 1 death. It ended up biting me after all, but no worries.
It's still a very solid run.
I would say so, yeah. Like, it can be a bit hard to really get close to a top time with this category. So, honestly, there's really nothing wrong with having something within the early hour mark of things, if I do say so. And, yeah, no, like Scav said, it's not that hard of a run to pick up in the general gist of things, so... Yeah, that's Blaster Master Zero. This was any %. And with the Mutant Lord defeated, Jason and Eve unfortunately have to split up because Eve now has to go out and about to hopefully take care of some other outer space mutant threats. But she decides to leave Fred with Jason as a way of saying thank you and knowing that he'll serve him well. And the two depart, with Jason hoping one day that he'll be able to tell her something that was on his mind. And with that, we conclude our story here. So, yeah, this is always fun to show off, and thank you to the Mediocres for having me for not 1 but 3, technically 4 runs. That's gonna be it for me though, and I mean, it is Father's Day, so at this point I should probably start to hang with my family now, but yeah, no, overall, I do want to wish a happy Father's Day to all dads out there, and yeah, no, thank you so much to Inti Creates and Sunsoft for making these games. If you want to get them yourself, they are fairly priced. You can get all 3 of them for under $20. I mean, well, individually anyway, but like, they are definitely bargain bin worthy titles, but very good games at that. And I would highly recommend it because they're also pretty optimized well enough throughout each of the platforms. So, Scav, where can these wonderful people find you?
Mostly either on Twitter or on my Twitch channel at Scavenger216.
Wonderful. And as for me, I have a Twitch here, TempestMask1000, as well as my YouTube channel of the same name, and my Twitter at @It'sTempestSteve if you want to check out any information, any posts for fun stuff that I like to throw on there, or any stream alerts that I might do, because I do not have a static streaming schedule. I do not plan a lot of things out, but I like to do speedruns of Mega Man likes, platformers, just overall all sorts of games. I'm pretty flexible and I love to learn all sorts of things, and there will be plenty more variety stuff to come down as well. If you'd like to learn the speedrun for this game or any Blaster Master title, though, we do have a Discord server and a community that I'm sure would be willing to hook you up, and you can find it attached to any of the leaderboards for the series itself. And I just want to say, I'd say it's a pretty interesting time for Blaster Master, considering that the Game Boy app for Nintendo Switch just got Enemy Underground. So if you want to try that out yourself, now you can, because otherwise the only other way to get that was 3DS Virtual Console. So there you go. All right, well, thank you again for having me. Big shout out to Jayo, quite a longtime friend of mine in the speedrunning community. And with that said, I hope we all meet again, but for the time being, ciao, Michi.